Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, May 19th. The recruiting wheels continue to turn for Notre Dame. They've got some commitments that have some really big commitments from David Folorunsho since our last show. They've also kind of missed on an offensive line prospect that everyone kind of thought was pegged for Notre Dame. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about where things are going with recruiting on that aspect. Gavin Williams, also DB, a possibility, also committed to USC. So we'll talk about the board and all those other things. And whatever else comes up in the chat. It's going to be a very fun show today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. And please hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. As always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. From All-Americans to all pros and associates to CEOs, you're in great hands with ESQ's custom clothing. Whether you're looking for the perfect fitting suit, a standout sport coat, or a perfect tuxedo for weddings and galas, ESQ's master tailors blend traditional hand stitching in each garment with Italy and England's best fabrics. Check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com. Book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD, get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. We hope everyone enjoyed the conversation with DJ Rizak yesterday, the father of Teddy and Anthony Rizak. That's on the ISD channel. It was Power Hour yesterday with Mike and Jamie. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very enlightening. I think that my main takeaway was, obviously, all the stuff we hear about Marcus Freeman and the type of person he is and the type of coach that he is and that family atmosphere that he likes to foster with the program. I think that all rang true. I think for me, it was just the self-awareness of him knowing, where his sons were and all that, that goes into your kids are star players and you go to a place like Notre Dame and it's very difficult to kind of rise up the depth chart. They're going to recruit. He used the word recruit over. And so I thought that was interesting just to get a parent's perspective. What did you take out of that yesterday, Jamie?
Yeah, well, first of all, what a great guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know Mike, is friends with him, so he had already kind of told us he was an awesome guy. But yeah, totally awesome guy. But you can also see too why his kid has continued to get better and better at Notre Dame and hasn't been one of these guys who jump ship. And obviously, I think going through the whole reasons of why he could have, it was a long list, right, of why he could have left, right? And it totally would have been understandable. But I think too, it's one of these things when you have somebody who's like a parent there, and his wife too, obviously, like parents, you have parents that are kind of guiding you in a direction and letting them make their own decisions, but also kind of being, they're not the person in their ear telling them hey, you're perfect, you're the best. I don't know what those people are thinking, whatever. Like that is really kind of poison to have that kind of parent in your ear, right? And and he talked about all those other parents. It was like, you wouldn't know that like Jason Love, Jeremiah Love's dad, his son was the best running back in college football based on how he acted towards everybody else, right? He just was just another parent. And I think too, when you get that buy-in from guys like that, it's so easy for everybody else to buy in, right? And it's easy too when you realize that like everybody else is kind of pulling in the same direction. And I know he kind of like held it back, but he was talking about, well, there are some receivers here who were kind of, they were looking for their own glory or whatever. And,
right.
Without naming names, but I think we could read between the lines who he's talking about. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's one of those things like he kind of wanted to pull that back too, but I think everyone knows the situation, what happened in the whole room kind of just left, like even players who were playing. And it just wasn't the culture as he kind of alluded to. So just please continue on that.
Well, yeah. And I think too, you can see the way that guys that are bought in and even the guys that like have left, there's difference between the guys who left because it's like, well, this is my last chance at an opportunity and I got to go and, take this last chance. Right. And you understand it. And then there's a difference between the guys who are like, nah, I want more shine. I want more of this. And it is just impressive too. Just kind of everything about like the culture of the program. You can hear it with the way that DJ talked about basically echoing the messaging of Marcus Freeman, right? Like that. Yeah. And if parents are doing that, I think you've done a pretty darn good job of getting your message across to everyone, right? Yeah. So it was really, really impressive.
Yeah. I think like as you get into like for me, and this was something that I was kind of paying attention to because as we get, I myself, my children are getting older, and it's like, when you're on a, like, let's say just club soccer team, that little world and, in our little bubble or whatever, like the culture matters even then, and obviously this is a football team. We're talking about hundreds of families now, right? Like there's 100 players in the roster, right? So like not every single parent at that number is going to be bought into everything. Just like every player isn't going to be perfectly bought in, but like when it's Jason Love, when he's setting the standard and all the parents of the players, like who are, very key contributors, like when they are on board with that, like that sets the tone for everything. And so like parent culture is almost just as important as the team culture, And so it was just interesting to kind of hear that that's the message from Marcus Freeman filters into the parents as well as the players. And it kind of just goes to show why everyone continues to talk about it and why people are interested and attracted to the Notre Dame program. David Folorunsho was attracted to the Notre Dame program, and he decided to commit to the Notre Dame program on Friday, or last Friday, excuse me. One of the bigger recruits Notre Dame's ever landed in terms of position and talent, right? I mean, you want 5 stars at any position, but in the defensive interior, it's been hard for Notre Dame to kind of break that glass and break through on those sort of things. Notre Dame has done so here. And I mean, you said there is, I think you said there is no ceiling. That might've been you. It might've been someone else.
That was me.
I mean, it's just, this guy is just unbelievable. He's has everything you want. He can be as good as he wants to be. And it's like, this is why Georgia won 2 straight national titles and why, they've been a perennial contender because of guys like this. What is Notre Dame getting here, Jamie? Is just superstar player.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at, there's so many teams that have won national championships where they have at least one of those kind of guys, those difference-making interior defensive linemen. And he is, capable of being that guy, in that kind of stratosphere, like, the guys that Georgia has had. Right. Yeah. So I think that's what you're looking at. Here he's at a 3 technique, and you just see like, even if he does some stuff with his hands that I think he's a little bit further ahead than a lot of guys his same age. But it's just the way he runs. Like you saw him rip and run here. You see him run here on a punt, like chasing down a punt. Here, this quarterback is fast. Like that is a fast kid that he chased down in space. Like, and it's not obviously just the speed, but the motor, to be able to do that. And he's just a guy who can be totally disruptive and develop into an elite interior pass rusher. Tough beat for Sid Irish and whoever told him that Miami whatever. I expect next time that guy shows up in the chat, he's got to own that. He
Sid,
spent like half an hour telling people that he's going to Miami.
Look, listen. We love our listeners. Okay, we do, and we appreciate the contributions. And let me tell you something else, Jamie. All right, I make bad calls, right? I say something's going to happen, it doesn't happen, right? Like we all do it. You do it. You come in the chat. You believe it's if you believe it, if you believe in something, put it out there. Fine, right? Yeah. It doesn't hurt anything. However, the apology needs to be definitive and it needs to be public, and I will put it out. Listen, it's only fair, right? If I make a mistake, I own it and I tell everybody. Come on, Sid, pop in and we'll put it up and then we'll move on. We'll move on from it. We all have no one bats 1,000. No one bats
1,000. Like Jerry Orbach said in Dirty Dancing, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Gotta own it. Wrong. And it would be one thing if he just flippantly threw it out, but he was like arguing with people in the chat.
No. It was multiple.
So that's the only reason why I bring it up. And I actually, no real shade on him. Like whatever. He comes in and
for sure we're messing around. We're giving a healthy ribbing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So go ahead.
But yeah, back to Folorunsho. Like, man, I just think he's got a chance to be just next level special. And I said it too when we're kind of talking about it on Power Hour, I think a couple weeks ago. I think when you think of like peak Stephon Tuitt, where you're like, man, this guy just took over this game and just changed the game for Notre Dame. That is the kind of guy that Folorunsho can be. And I think one of the things with it too is that when you think about Rodney Dunham in the previous class and him, those are the two best defensive line prospects that they've, landed. And obviously you got to sign Folorunsho and finish up here, but provided that it happens, which you expect to happen, that's as good as any. That I mean, you could probably go back to 90s Holtz and look at those kind of years and be like, yeah, it's that level.
Yeah. You land him, you have Aiden O'Neal, could land Jackson Vaughn. A year after, you land Rodney Dunham and Ebenezer Ewatade.
Yes.
I mean, that's the formula, O-line, D-line driven program. And so that's a big deal. We're going to go back a little bit more to talk about Olu Babola. I think I got that right. 5-star tackle. And look, it's one of those things like I've heard, teams were wondering if he was going to take a little bit longer to develop. Not from a physical standpoint, I mean, he's just a shade under 300 listed right now. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's what he's listed at.
Yeah, no, that's verified.
Okay, verified, just under 300. So it's not from a physical standpoint. It might take a little bit longer to develop. Notre Dame is the type of university that that can afford that can, they've got young players playing right now, and they've got a lot of prospects that can be coming up and playing right now. So they can afford to be patient with players like this, especially premier talents like this. Not everyone has that patience. We'll get that in a second, but talk about him as a prospect and what you kind of see from him as he continues on his high school career and into Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the reason why he's going to need some time is there's just some rawness to his game, just in terms of technically, right? And it is such a huge thing, that it's a hugely important part of playing the offensive line position. And I'd say very similar to Gerby Lambert in a lot of ways. But he's so gifted in terms of just physically, I mean, freaky long, right? Like he's got like an 86-inch wingspan, almost 87-inch wingspan. He's got if just today, if he was in the NFL draft today, he would have some of the longest arms. He'd be like top 10, top 15 longest arms in like since they've done the combine. He's got that kind of freaky length. And when you combine that with the way that he can move, just his feet are so good. Like he's gifted in that way. And the just raw material is just special. It's just special. Now, I do think that, there's always things there that, you have to develop it and you have to want to do it and all that. But as long as that's there, man, the sky's the limit for him too, right? He can really be like, he's got first round pick potential. Absolutely. And I think it's great too that, he could walk into a situation where very likely going to redshirt, I would say, his first year. I think that is pretty, pretty fair to say, just based on not just his ability, but also like where they're going to be at the tackle position. And I also wouldn't be surprised too if like they might even in his second year, he might be ready to play, but he might have to play guard for a year or something like that, kind of like Lambert did, right? Like I think that is a possibility, but he's just one of these guys that kind of like how Lambert's shifting out to right tackle, and you're like, wow, they're going to unlock him.
Yeah.
I think it could be a very similar type of thing. And now when you're looking at it too, and I mean, obviously we'll get into more of like the offensive line recruiting in a bit, but if you just have a guy like that, and if you look at every year, they've signed one of those tackles basically under Rudolph, right? Yeah. One of those like really top-notch elite guys. And then obviously there's other guys who can play the position at a pretty high level too. Like I think Matty Augustine is going to be one of these guys that if he doesn't play tackle and start at tackle for Notre Dame, well, he's going to be a multi-year starter at guard. Like that is going to happen. They're in great shape. They're just in really, really good shape there. And I just think that Rudolph doesn't get enough credit for not landing this, because there's obviously a lot that goes into it, that it's just like not just a relationship kind of thing, but for identifying talent and then developing guys. You see guys get better and progress, and he's a really good coach. So and I think too, when the material's there, it's I think the proof's in the pudding.
Swanton Bomb said, don't forget Cisse when talking about the thing. I mean, we don't have intel. I wanted to include guys that I'm kind of sure are going to be on the team. So, but I mean, if they do land Cisse, I mean, he just adds to that, right? Like we're huge fans of him. Huge fans of him and his game and everything, and so I would definitely lump him in. Here's a question from Matt McCarthy, Jamie. This is right up your alley. At defensive tackle, how would you compare Folorunsho to Elijah Golden and Braden Parks? So let's do that first, and then I'll read the second part of the question.
First of all, we probably should have mentioned, whenever we're talking about guys, I'm like, oh, these elite guys who could be high picks, Elijah Golden probably deserves to be mentioned in there too. I think there is more rawness to him, and he's somebody who, I mean, he's already over 290 pounds now, so you're already seeing it, but he was somebody who's kind of similar to Burgess, where you're like, oh, he's kind of an edge, but he should end up inside, and you could see his body type, and he's just going to grow into it. And, you only got brief glimpses of him this spring as an early enrollee. Not that I expect him to play a lot or whatever, but you can just see the way he moves at 290 pounds. It's exceptional for a guy like that. So, it's going to take time. He's not going to be somebody who's going to plug in. I mean, even next year, it's going to be tough for him to crack the rotation based on who they have. But when he breaks through, he's got huge potential. So I would say with him, the raw material is just right up there. He's just got things he needs to work on just in terms of pad level and just consistency with his hands and all that. But already, just from things I saw from him just briefly, just through individual and stuff like that, like, man, he's got a chance to be a great player. I mean, Parks, I would say the difference between Parks, Golden is closer to Folorunsho in that these guys are like 3-tech.
Yeah.
Those type of guys. And Folorunsho really is a guy. I mean, you see him run, he could legit, kind of like how Tuitt, you would line him up outside. He could rush the edge, but he couldn't line up inside. Folorunsho is going to be one of those guys who I honestly think you could line up any spot on the defensive line. And you're like, oh, like almost like a Peter Woods at Clemson, right? Same kind of thing where you're like, oh, yeah, this team's trying to run on us, so we're just going to line up Peter Woods over this tight end, and he's just going to kick the crap out of this tight end. That's Folorunsho. He can kind of do that, and Folorunsho physically is going to be, I think, ready to roll immediately. Like, I think he's going to be someone who's ready to play year one at Notre Dame and like be in the rotation. Parks is more of an, I think he's a guy who could play 3-tech, but also, you know, as a 1-tech kind of nose tackle type. But super quick, shorter arms. Obviously, he's not a guy who's super duper long.
Yeah.
But you see like the lateral twitch and the explosiveness, you know, the ability to win at the point of attack against double teams, stuff like that. He's a high level prospect. Like he's really, really good. He's just different where he's a guy who might only be a 2-down guy because of his position, but he legit could be a 3-down player. And also like, he's not going to be, when you sometimes recruit guys who to play nose tackle, you think those guys are just 2-down guys and you just want them, hey, stop the run, man. That's what you're doing. No, he's a guy that I think like, okay, this is what I would say with Parks too. And I won't use this for the comp, you know, if he commits or whatever. But when I think of him, if you look at Jared Dawson last year, and first of all, Jared Dawson was balling in the second half of the year. Yeah. It still gets me that I just wanted to see these guys play in the playoff because I think I think there's some of these guys too, who I'm not saying he would have got drafted, but I think Will Pauling would have got drafted if they would have played and gone on a long playoff run. Like, I just think people would have saw more film of him doing against that. And I think that could have helped, right? There was guys like that. Dawson was going to be a guy that I think really started to turn heads and stuff too. But I'd say Parks is a bigger Jared Dawson, but that same kind of quickness, that same kind of first step quickness where he can be disruptive. He could be too quick for guards. He could blow up a center. If you're not going to double him, he's going to blow it up. Same kind of idea to me. So, and similar to, right, where he's just a bigger version of that.
I mean, and people, you know, might think, oh, you know, Jared Dawson, not super impact player. I mean, we would disagree just because sometimes the impact doesn't show on stats and whatever. But if Jared Dawson was bigger, you're talking about a different player too.
Yeah.
You know? That makes him a completely different, you know, type of prospect. So, all right, that's good. That's good color. I'll get to the rest of it. Okay. Yeah. Let me read it because not everyone's on the video. At defensive end, how would you rank the remaining targets? Cisse, Fakatu, and Vaughn. Contrary to rankings, I'd have Cisse at number 1.
First of all, I don't really care about like the rankings of like this guy's ahead of this. Like, they're all in the same tier. You know, they're different kind of players. They're all actually all very different, but I would say they're all in the same tier. I mean, in terms of my grades, I believe I have Fakatu at a 97 and Cisse's 96, and then Vaughn is a 95. And the reason Vaughn is a 95, and first of all, he's above where a lot of other people, he's going to move up these rankings, and if not, the sites are going to look stupid.
Yeah,
he has special pass rush ability, just incredible reactive athleticism.
Yeah.
So, but he's going to be undersized. He's never going to be huge. So he's probably going to be like 240 to 255 ish or whatever. That's what he's probably going to end up at in in college. So he's never going to be, freaky, super freaky long and like 290 or something like Fakatu could be, but still have that ridiculous athleticism, right? Fakatu is actually kind of closer to Folorunsho. I think he's kind of more similar to that. And Cisse is one of those guys who's like just incredible, like pterodactyl arms and elite twitch and all of that. And just, a little bit more raw in terms of like, he's got to learn stuff with his hands and get better there. But like, man, the material is incredible. So, I mean, all those guys are, Fakatu, I do think maybe he just grows to be defensive tackle. I think he could legitimately play edge, and those guys are all edges. And first of all, everyone gets into the strong side, weak side thing. That's not a thing anymore for Notre Dame. And really for a lot of teams, it isn't anyways, right? They just go right and left. But I think if you're thinking about all three of those guys, those are guys that you want to have because third down, the money down, 3rd and 7. It's like, hey, we want to rush 4 and whatever. It's like, well, you can slot those guys in anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 3 guys, like the difference is somewhat marginal. And especially when you factor in like how someone might assimilate to Notre Dame, like Cisse coming from, again, I'm always on Cisse because of the Midwest thing, the PA thing. Like I just feel like that's important, and it has nothing to do with Fakatu being out from out West or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. It just makes more sense to me that would, the likelihood of it working out with him, I think, is higher. Like there is a variable to me coming from the West Coast that you factor in, but these are star players, these are quality prospects. Any of them end up on Notre Dame's roster, you're feeling like you're counting your lucky stars, so, other different minds can feel a different kind of way about these guys, but they're high level prospects. Let's talk about the Leighton Von Brandt situation. Notre Dame felt good about him pretty much throughout the process until maybe the night before his decision. Things kind of trended differently. Some things in the background that make you feel like, something with Auburn offering his brother, who Notre Dame wasn't willing to go that route. There were concerns,
understandably.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's Notre Dame's running a program, right? They can't just be offering guys, especially at the position. I mean, look at where they're at the position. And then also there were questions even before all of this about when am I going to be able to play? The depth chart and how many guys Notre Dame was bringing in. I read there were concerns about the number of O linemen that were coming in. And for me, that's kind of like, that hasn't really been a secret, like why are we talking about that? That's not a new thing, right? It'd be like a running back being like, hey, we're taking a second running back. It's like, whoa, man, that was never a question. So, that they lost out on the recruitment to Auburn there. And so how big a deal do you think this is? And does Notre Dame just immediately pivot to Albert Simeon? I want to say, pivot to Albert Simeon. I think they were always kind of on him. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Like when people, when they landed Olu, it was like, oh, they're passing on Simeon. It's like, well, no, there's always stuff that can come up that they never close the door on something like that. So
yeah.
You just kind of put that.
Well, and I think obviously this is a perfect example why you don't close the door, right? Because of this. And I think probably if they did land Von Brandt, they probably would have said, yeah, well, we got there and we can't, we're not going to take anybody else because, they already got 5 in the class. They're probably not going to take 6. So I get it. But obviously Simeon is a better prospect than Von Brandt. And somebody asked a question we didn't get to the questions in Power Hour last time, but it's like, well, Simeon is a top 50 prospect and Von Brandt is like top 200 for me. Like there's a gap there. And I think one of the things with Von Brandt is that he is, another guy who's like super long and got all these things. When you walk in, you say, well, that guy's going to play in the NFL, right? Because he's got that kind of size, that just different kind of offensive lineman size that just is unique. But I think there is some of a bit of Tosh Baker to him in a little bit of ways too, where you can see like, well, yeah, but he's got to address some things and he's got to overcome some things to do it. So, but I do think he's probably got better lateral movement than Baker, and that could be like a big difference for him. But if you notice, this is always a thing too. When if people say like, highlight tapes, whatever, obviously you want to watch film and you want to watch game film and all that kind of stuff. But you can learn a lot from highlight tapes from what they show and what they don't show. Not a lot of him moving people off the point of attack on his thing. And when you do see it, and you can see why. Yeah, he's high. He's a natural just guy who pops up. And Joe Alt is like almost 6'9", but you never see Joe Alt get beaten by leverage. He was an incredible bend just with just a natural knee bender. And that's not Von Brandt, didn't have that. So, that's something I certainly think he was capable of, like one day being a guy who started at Notre Dame. That was definitely a possibility there. But I think too, and we'd heard he was kind of a guy who was a little bit worried about whether he was going to play or not, or when he was going to play. I mean, those guys, I don't care what school you go to. It's like very rarely does it, especially at Notre Dame, literally everybody on the offensive line, or like 90% of the guys they bring in the room are 4 or 5 star guys. Like everybody, like if you were a top 300 guy, you are on the low end of the totem pole of that, like O-line recruiting. Like, it's just a fact. So, in order to do it, like you got to beat out other guys who are great players that have a chance to be great players. And also like how, what like DJ Rizak was saying, they're going to recruit. What do you think in the next class? They're not going to bring in guys. They are always going to do that. But one of the things with the offensive line group is like, it is like very much a brotherhood, similar to the defensive line group, but the offensive line group, it's very much like the older guys mentoring the younger guys, helping them bring them along. No one is like, they don't exclude anyone from they're trying to like help everybody get better. It's very much more than before any of this. They were team glory before anyone. Yeah. And you see, obviously with the injuries, guys play and guys are going to get chances. And I mean, Anthony Knapp, to me, the perfect example of him being like, he was the 4th string center when he came his first day. By the game 1, he was starting at left tackle. Like, it can happen. You got to make it happen too. And obviously there's got to be other circumstances that can happen, but he earned his way into the 2 deep right away. And it's just a fact. Like, that's where you're going to be. And now I do think that there are some people that just because, they're not going to be at Notre Dame doesn't mean they can't be successful. He might end up being a really good player at Auburn. I don't know. Right. And the perfect example of that is, I can't remember what year it was, but Irish Invasion, George Karlaftis was there. Yeah. And he was, already had an offer, was working out. I believe Jason Owe was there. Jason Owe, who's Odafe Owe now, but Jason Owe at the time, Owe was like, oh my God, like this freak show. Like, I think he like broad jumped 11 feet at the camp. And everyone was like, holy crap. Like, he was just next level. The Adam and Lola twins were working out there. There's some good D linemen at the camp. And Karlaftis had a brutal camp. Like, he didn't look like he belonged. And he was just like, looked like downtrodden and whatever. And a lot of times that's the kind of thing where you had been like, well, this guy's never going to make it, whatever. but you could still see the pieces there that he was like a big athlete and whatever. He just was having a terrible camp. And I know Notre Dame pushed for him after, and he was like, I don't think I can play there. I don't think I'm good enough. Like he was, well, he goes to Purdue. And then, I mean, the next year he like kept blowing up and kept growing and whatever. He was like a 5-star or top 100 guy, whatever he ended up as. And he goes to Purdue, plays right away, makes a huge impact, ends up being a first-round pick. If he didn't go to Purdue, he might have just not had the mental strength at that time, mental maturity at that time to go to a bigger school and have success. So maybe he is someone who needed to go to Purdue to be the player that he became. And now he's whatever, got a huge second contract, the Chiefs and all that. So it could happen for Von Brandt, whatever. Maybe that's fine. Maybe that he needs to go somewhere where he's getting people to pump him up and where there's a clear path to do something right away. But I mean, in general, if a guy comes in with that kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to play. Well, guess what? You're not going to play. Like it's just, you got to have the attitude that you're like, and perfect example is Jackson Hill, who's like, I'm betting on myself.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jackson Hill is as talented as Leighton Von Brandt. He certainly doesn't have the same ranking. I don't think Jackson Hill is as talented as most guys in the room right now. Not to say he doesn't have talent. Obviously, he's getting a scholarship to Notre Dame, but he's going in there thinking like, I want it. Well, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but he's got the attitude where if it's going to happen, he will make it happen.
And it's hard when, like a player that's already unhappy about that situation, it's hard then to, like, I don't know how it is at other universities, but at Notre Dame, it's hard to suffer through the hard that Notre Dame offers because you're already unhappy with that situation. You're already questioning yourself, you know, like I feel like it's exacerbated.
Everyone has a tough first year.
Yeah.
I don't care where you go. Well, I'm not everyone. There's Kyle Hamiltons, there's KVAs. Whatever.
Well, no, I mean, they have tough first years. Maybe not as players, but personally, right, with school and everything. Like it is difficult.
Homesick, all that, yeah.
Right. I mean, Kyle was homesick. I know for a fact. He was
wanted to go home,
wanted to go home, right? Like it just initially, you know, and obviously you play and they all get through it. Like so many, we hear of so many guys that are just like, I'm done. Like I'm ready to leave. And obviously most of them stick it out, right? But so they all have difficult times. If you are already like, I don't know about this, and now school's hard, and now it's getting cold, and you know, I don't know that this is for me. I'm not playing. I don't have a clear path to the field. You're not going to make it. You know, like anytime I hear about these guys who are nervous about it like this in this way, who are worried about it, like I do view them differently because it's like, well, this isn't going to work out, man. Like this, you know, it's if you have questions coming in and you're not Kyle Hamilton, it just would make me very nervous. So it's like, you know, anytime a player either commits or doesn't commit somewhere else, and we come on here and it's like, well, you know, we heard this, and it's like, well, that's sour grapes. It's like, you know, maybe it's not sour grapes. It's just you view them differently because of the choices that they made. Like it's like it's not that big a deal because the reasons were definitive to not do it, and so therefore it's like, okay, like now I view that player in a different way. It's not a huge loss for them because it wasn't going to work anyway. Because this is where his mind's at, and that's fine, right? It's totally fine. Not everyone goes to Notre Dame. Like it's good players decide not to go to Notre Dame for the reasons, and they can still be good players. Right, exactly. And good players, like they wouldn't be good players at Notre Dame because of the circumstances, I guess. Notre Dame, it wouldn't bring out the best in them, and that's not for everyone. You know, that's just the way it is. So it isn't sour grapes. It's just like the circumstances lead me to believe it wouldn't have worked out. And so the Notre Dame needs to find someone who's a better fit. That's basically it. And hopefully that's Albert Simeon, you know. So, you know, we'll see where that goes, right? We're monitoring that situation. Matt and Christian are going to be all over that as they are all over everything at irishsportsdaily.com. Gavin Williams committed to USC. I don't think that was any surprise. Given the fact that Notre Dame, I always worry about someone of his caliber being the fifth guy. Because for them, it's like, I don't need to be a fifth guy anywhere. I could be a big deal for USC, right? And especially because he's local, you know. So that didn't happen. Do you think Notre Dame's going to be done at DB, Jamie?
No, I think they'll probably. I mean, they could be, but I do think they're. Montana Tormer, who was committed to Indiana, he just decommitted, and I know that Notre Dame is. I believe he's got a official set for Notre Dame, and like, not to say that he's going to end up. That means he's going to end up at Notre Dame, but he's, was definitely like on the radar as somebody that they still wanted. And I think they like the Carnell James kid too, from Texas, who's a really, really good athlete. So maybe those two or whatever. I can't remember if there's anybody else that they're bringing in. But I don't honestly, I don't think they need to take a fifth necessarily. And I think it would have been a luxury to have Gavin Williams. And I do think he's an outstanding prospect. He would have helped Notre Dame, and I think he could have been a great player at Notre Dame. I also think too that there's a different thing there where his value to USC is different than Notre Dame's, what his value to Notre Dame would be. As like, let's be honest too, Chad Bowden he wants to win those ones where it's like, it's USC or Notre Dame. Like, especially when it's a California kid, they'll overpay for that. And so there's, those kind of factors go into it too.
As they should.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't be losing those prospects to Notre Dame. So that's fine. Raymond Horton asks, can you give your feelings about the linebacker board?
So I actually think it's way better than people were, kind of painting the picture as. Like, it was like dire before. Certainly Caden Henderson is like, whatever, exceptional. And he's special. And if you land him, that's great. But everybody knows I love Amari Irvin. Mm-hmm. Love him as a player. I do like, and I really like Sean Fox. Glover, I think, is a pretty good prospect. I certainly wouldn't be at the top of my list out of those guys, but I think he's a good prospect. I like Roman Igwebuike. I do think he's a good prospect. He's a Chicago kid who's, I think Notre Dame's in his top 4. I didn't know that Toa Satele, like, I didn't know that they were like really going to be in on him. Mm-hmm. But he's put Notre Dame in his top group, and he's going to take a visit. And obviously Notre Dame has done pretty well with Polynesian kids, and he's sounds like he is a good fit for Notre Dame. And I think he's a big time prospect too. So it's like, if they come out of this, and I would say that, like, if they come out with a Henderson, obviously, like, you're throwing a parade. That's incredible. You should be plenty happy with the rest of the board. I would say, like, everybody's pretty good, but I would say if you get Satele or Fox would be my kind of next two that I would say, like, throw one of those guys with Irvin, you're rolling.
Yeah, I think John Marie just got a late start, and Notre Dame hadn't made a ton of headway before he arrived, and so they had
the double switch at the position, which really made it hard, because it's like, okay, well, now Wash is calling these kids like, I'm taking over now, and then 2 weeks later, it's like, it's tough. That's really tough, right? So it's just kind of what it is, but also too, the board is in a good way. They don't have to take 4 this year. That'd be a lot worse if they were like, well, we got to get 3 or 4. It's like, that'd been tough.
Yeah. I think it really matters, like, what KVA does in terms of this year's numbers, because I honestly think he's staying another year. I think he wants to be healthy. I think he wants to, I'm telling you, he wants to play next to Madden Faremo. He does. Yeah. And they're buds, and I think that would be awesome. It'd be awesome for Notre Dame for sure. So that's, I think people look at linebacker beyond next year in a way that I think people need to settle down. Like, I think it'll be all right in terms of quality numbers. I mean, like, again, we talked about like Ko Kia, Kanu Kia, Teddy Rizak. Like, these are guys who can play. Just because they're sitting behind studs right now doesn't mean they can't play. And so I think that's going to be a good thing. Wide receiver, we'll talk about that real quick. Julius Jones Jr. is kind of the one you figure could pop next at that position. Are you surprised? I mean, they're on Monchon Sales, so I think he's someone, but I think he was recently I think he was predicted to Indiana, if I recall correctly on that. Could Notre Dame? Are you comfortable with them just taking 2 out of this class if it's just those Jackson Coleman and Julius Jones Jr.?
Yes, because if you think about what they added last offseason, first of all, they signed 5 freshmen. Right. They signed 5 freshmen, 3 of whom, did practice in full in the spring, and all look like hits.
Yeah.
So you're looking good there. And they took 2 underclassmen in Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter, who have multiple years of eligibility left. So you're basically taking 7 guys, and I'm not saying all those guys are going to stick around all the time.
For sure.
I don't expect all 5 of those receivers to stay. It just usually doesn't work like that, especially at the receiver position. But I think when you think about the numbers that they have there and the numbers that they have overall the position, and the fact that who's to say that is a position you go into the portal and you will find people. So I don't think it's I actually would prefer that they only take 2 just for this year based on what they just took, and then see what's out there to try to get somebody in the portal too.
Yeah.
Where there was the talk about the linebacker. Well, they're going to need to take someone at linebacker. No, I don't think they have to take anyone at linebacker. I don't expect them to take anybody at linebacker in the portal, unless it's just like a no-brainer fit that it's just like, well, obviously, like, of course they would take him, whatever. And they, but they're just, I don't think that's going to happen there. But at receiver, it's just, there's always guys available and good players that you can get, or just depth that you can find too. So there's just a lot of young talent on the team too, that it's just like, do you really need to get somebody who's like, especially at receiver, guys are like, man, I got like no reps this whole time, and I'm fighting just to get one-on-one reps. How do you keep guys around that whole time? I think that it's a harder position to do that.
Yeah. I think Mylan Graham he's a candidate to have a big year and then just go. But I don't think Quincy Porter is. I don't think he'll be.
Well, he's only he's got 2 years.
Oh, that's right. He was just a true freshman. Like he couldn't anyway. So he has to be around.
For sure.
Yeah, Mylan Graham does not, but yeah, that's right. Yeah, Quincy Porter does. He has to stay.
And just because Mylan Graham, and I'm not saying that Mylan Graham might not have a monster year, he might. But I would just find it hard to believe that he would just be like a 1 and out. He would just have to have just like, oh my gosh, like an exceptional year where all of a sudden it's like, is he going to be a Blitnikoff finalist or something? Like, you have to have that kind of year when you've had no production basically the rest of your career.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that is hard. So even if you think of a guy like Makai Lemon, I mean, he had the breakout as a sophomore year and then the big junior year to go 3 and out, right? Yeah. To go 3 and out and really like just have 1 year. Not a lot of guys do it. So maybe, but if he did it, it would be like, well, I'm just done with school and I just want to move on. That would be my opinion.
This show is a Mylan Graham believer, Jamie. I don't know if you knew that. We're
No, I'm
big on
definitely a
Mylan
Mylan Graham believer. I'm just saying, like, based on circumstances, it would be surprising. Kind of like how we're talking about the KVA stuff. Do I think KVA is good enough to go? Like, yeah, for sure. Like, he could go after. I mean, he's fits all the criteria other than the injury. Everything else checks that he would be a 3-and-out player. But like you said, there's other factors involved, including the injury, that think that, like, there's a good chance he could come back for a fourth year.
KVA's in Italy, Jamie.
Yes, I did see that.
He's studying abroad in Italy. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
I mean, that's why people go to Notre Dame, right? Like, you're coming out here and you're studying abroad in Italy. Please stay safe, KVA. He's growing his hair out again. I know Matt. That's very important to Matt on I see what you did there, Sam. That's funny. Bryce Young is also in Italy as well. Anything else, Jamie, on the recruiting front that you want to touch on before we get going?
I don't think so, because I think that that's kind of it, really. Like, they have, like, obviously a lot of big fish defensive linemen left. Mm-hmm. And linebacker is obviously important, but they still have a number of guys there, and they only have to get one.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And it's just like, if they get Julius Jones Jr. at receiver, yeah, you would take Munch and Sales, but, like, yeah,
it's got to be that caliber.
It's got to be that kind of caliber of guy. So it's like, other than a defensive line, it's a lot of, like, big game hunting left. Yeah. And I mean, last year's last year, this year's this year, but man, they did a good job big game hunting last year. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to watch. All right, we can end it there, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. Be on the lookout for a show sometime tomorrow, maybe in the afternoon, with Pete Sampson talking about Notre Dame and the 2014 playoff. Try to get into some of his reporting on that. And then it's scheduled, but he's traveling, so there's always stuff that can come up on that end. So just be on the lookout for it. Hit the notification bell. And Jamie and I will be back on Thursday to do some more hitting and hustling and talking Notre Dame football. So have a great rest of your day, everyone. We will talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.